Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. This is our last Frankly Speaking before the holidays. We have Christmas Eve off and Christmas Day, so you need to get all of your comments in right from the beginning this morning, because we've got a lot to talk about. We have some New York State issues. We have national issues. Let's get right to it. First of all, if you're interested, I'm not going to go through all the details, but there is a piece at the New York Post that shows that the IRS criminal investigators played a pivotal role in tracking down the Brown University shooter, ultimately leading the FBI and other law enforcement agencies right to him, according to sources that spoke with the New York Post. After the homeless Reddit poster hero known as John helped authorities ID Claudio Neves Valentin as a suspect following several false trails, the IRS criminal investigation team began combing through his financial records. At that point, the criminal investigations team became involved and determined where he had obtained the storage facility in which he was ultimately located. Once the location was identified, they issued an alert to the FBI with information on where he could be found. Kind of interesting, he was difficult to trace after he was identified because he used European SIM cards and a gizmo that made it harder to track phones. Gizmo, their words, not mine. That's part of why the IRS CI team proved to be so crucial. A Treasury Department spokesperson said Secretary Scott Bessent, and with the help of the IRS CEO, Frank Bizzagano, directed all possible resources to assist the FBI in their pursuit of justice for this unspeakable tragedy. IRS criminal investigation agents worked tirelessly on this effort. Kind of interesting, just a part of the story I have not heard yet. You can find out all the details at the New York Post. Okay, a couple updates from stories we've had for you the last couple days, couple weeks. There's a major update in New York State regarding the alleged Chinese agent. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But first, I brought to you this story quickly during one broadcast. I wanted to give you an update. A transgender graduate instructor at the University of Oklahoma has now been fired, after she failed a conservative student's Bible-based essay in response to an article on gender stereotypes. Samantha Fulnecki, a 20-year-old junior, penned what they're calling a provocative essay in late November. We mentioned it at the time. It presented a faith-fueled argument against a liberal belief in multiple genders, though she did neglect to formally cite the Bible. The psychology course's instructor, graduate student Mel Kurth, who uses she/they pronouns, was officially removed from her position following widespread backlash and an investigation into Fulnecki's religious discrimination claims. Quote, and this is what the school wrote, quote, based on an examination of the graduate teaching assistant's own statements related to this matter, it was determined that the graduate teaching assistant was arbitrary in the grading of this specific paper. The graduate teaching assistant will no longer have instructional duties at the university. Kurth was originally placed on leave after Fulnecki's essay went viral, and the university had already ruled that the failed essay would not impact Fulnecki's final grade in the course in early December. The assignment asked students to write a 650-word response to an academic article examining whether conformity to gender norms was associated with popularity or bullying among middle school students. I'm not going to go through the whole essay, but she did say, I live my life based on this truth and firmly believe that there would be less gender issues and insecurities in children if they were raised knowing that they do not belong to themselves, but they belong to the Lord. In her feedback to the student, Kurth said that she neglected to address the prompt and relied more on personal ideology than empirical evidence. She also said that Fulnecki's assertion were at times offensive. To call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minority population. You could say that strict gender norms don't create gender stereotypes, but that isn't true by definition of what a stereotype is. Please note that accordingly, gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, a nuance this article discusses. Ryan Walters, the conservative Oklahoma State school superintendent who left his post in September, celebrated Fulnecki as an American hero for tackling the war on Christianity. Oklahoma State Representative Gabe Woolley also presented Fulnecki with a citation of recognition from his office. This was the right decision. As I said from the beginning, this individual should never have been employed at a public university, particularly in a human science role, when he rejected the fundamental biological realities that there are two genders. So that is your update from that story we brought to you a few weeks ago, probably now at this point. We have so many breaking news stories that they go a little quick. We lose all sense of time. Now, the big topic, the one thing I've discussed on this program in the past, and we've mentioned numerous times, is the media loves reporting on themselves. Whether it's, look at all the coverage, for instance, Jimmy Kimmel got when he was basically given a long weekend. Now the big topic is the media likes to discuss CBS quashing that 60 Minutes spot on El Salvadorian prisons. Well, some 60 Minutes staff are now threatening to quit over what the Daily Beast, the far-left Daily Beast, calls pro-Trump censorship. CNN's chief media analyst, Brian Stetler, said inside 60 Minutes, where journalistic independence is sacrosanct, people are threatening to quit over this. Now, CBS had announced earlier in the afternoon it would pull a 60 Minutes segment, otherwise billed as an inside look at the brutal and torturous conditions at CECOT, the feared El Salvadorian mega prison, to which the MAGA administration has deported hundreds of migrants this year. Now, what was the memo that Barry Wise sent to the staffers? Because I think that's important. The exact memo from Barry Wise to the staff, while noting that they were going to pull the segment, was, "Hi all, I'm writing with specific guidance on what I'd like for us to do to advance the CCOT story. I know you'd all like to see this run as soon as possible. I feel the same way. But if we run the piece as is, we'd be doing our viewers a disservice." Now, before I continue with the memo, I guess it's been leaked online, and you can understand with this disgruntled staff. I guess it has been posted online, and it did broadcast in Canada, allegedly. But continuing with the memo. Last month, many outlets, most notably the New York Times, exposed the horrific conditions at CCOT. Our story presents more of those powerful testimonies, and putting those accounts into the public record is valuable in and of itself. But if we're going to run another story about a topic that has by now been much covered, we need to advance it. Among the ways to do so, does anyone in the administration or anyone prominent who defended the use of the Aliens Enemies Act now regret it in light of what these Venezuelans endured as CCOT? That's a question I'd like to see answered, or asked and answered. At present, we do not present the administration's argument for why it sent 252 Venezuelans to CCOT. What we have is Carolyn Levitt's soundbite claiming they are evildoers in America. But isn't there much more to ask in light of the torture that we are revealing? Tom Homan and Stephen Miller don't tend to be shy. I realize we've emailed the DHS Spocks, but we don't need to push much harder to get these principles on the record. The data we present paints an incongruent picture. Of the 252 Venezuelans sent to CCOT, we say nearly half have no criminal records. In other words, more than half do have criminal records. We should spend a beat explaining this. We then say that only 8 of the 252 have been sentenced in America for violent crimes or violent offenses. But what about charged? My point is that we should include as much as we can possibly know and understand about these individuals. Secretary Noem's trip to CCOT, we report that she took pictures and video there with MS-13 gang members, not TDA members, with no comment from her or her staff about what her goal on that trip was, or what she saw there, or if she had or has concerns about the treatment of detainees like the ones in our piece. Sorry, there we go. I also think that the ensuing analysis from the Berkeley students is strange. The pictures are alarming, we should include them, but what does the analysis add? We need to do a better job of explaining the legal rationale by which the administration detained and deported these 252 Venezuelans to CCOT. It's not as simple as Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act and being able to deport them immediately. And that isn't the administration's argument. The administration has argued in court that detainees are due judicial review, and we should explain this with a voice arguing that Trump is exceeding his authority under the relevant statute, and another arguing that he's operating within the bounds of his authority. There's a genuine debate here. If we cut down Kristi Noem analysis, we'd have the time. My general view here is that we do our viewers the best service by presenting them with the full context they need to assess the story. In other words, I believe we need to do more reporting here. I'm eager and available to help. I tracked down cell numbers of Homan and Miller and sent those along. Please let me know how I can support you. So that seems pretty standard. It seems like actually good kind of journalism to expand the picture. It doesn't sound like that's still not coming from a place that's critical of the decision, but one that wants to paint a fuller picture. But that is leading to, because let's face it, 60 Minutes has been, before the Kamala edited interview, they had kind of been left untouched. Very often we would report on their bias from their 60 Minutes broadcasts or other CBS broadcasts. So in this scenario, to me, it seems like with the new head, Barry Wise, just saying, hey, let's kind of get away from that bad reputation. Let's do the full reporting. There's something to report here. This just isn't the full picture. Wise also addressed the backlash during a network-wide editorial call, saying she held the segment because we simply need to do more, much like her statement. I felt like it wasn't ready. Wise said the story had already been reported on by places like the New York Times. The public knows that Venezuelans have been subjected to horrific treatment in this prison, so to run a story on this subject 2 months later, we simply need to do more, as she said in her piece, kind of further the story along. She said the only newsroom she wants to run is one where editors can have contentious disagreements while assuming the best intent of colleagues. The only newsroom that I am interested in running is one that we are able to have contentious disagreements about the thorniest editorial matters and do so with respect and, crucially, where we assume the best intent of our colleagues. Now, Alfonso, the correspondent, Sharon Alfonso, blasted the decision in a Sunday email to top correspondents, writing that she learned just a day earlier that Wise had spiked the story. The segment has been promoted heavily and was scheduled to air Sunday before CBS abruptly pulled it just 3 hours before broadcast. So really enough on that. But just keep in mind, this story isn't going to go away because the media loves reporting on the media. The media, it's twofold. They get to promote themselves in the media. They get to badmouth someone that they think may have a little bit of Trump leaning, and they get badmouth Trump and his administration. So it's a perfect storm. That's why you'll see a lot of coverage of it, and that's why I want to just give you that quick update and kind of give you a fair perspective of what was said in that piece. All right, we've got other breaking stories we need to get to international-wise. A little bit about Epstein here. I know President Trump saying that he didn't really care for the release of the photos with Bill Clinton. We're going to talk about that. Also, there's a piece, take it with a grain of salt, but it's suggesting that Ted Cruz may be gearing up another presidential run, which would be interesting because as of right now, J.D. Vance considered the front runner. Marco Rubio even saying if J.D. Vance decides to run, he would step aside. So will Ted Cruz go that avenue? Because remember, he was still in a very heated primary with then candidate Trump, even to the point where New York became crucial, which doesn't happen very often in New York. So it was really kind of an interesting time. So will Ted Cruz kind of have another go at that? Be more of what you would say maybe less MAGA candidate of the two? Your thoughts on that. But we got to take a short break. We're running just a tad bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Okay, there's the signal.
Wait, hurry, he's coming. Have a good round.
See you later. All right.
What's that?
Toolbox.
Okay.
Santa's way sneakier.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard them, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at Organ Donor.
Boy, that looks very Christmassy out there, doesn't it? Keep that in mind. It is a little bit nasty out there. If you're on your way in to work this morning, leave yourself a little extra time. But it looks pretty here on historic Market Street. That view brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street, the aforementioned Market Street. I want to give you an update. I gave a little bit of wrong information yesterday because I thought it was last night. It's actually tonight. Our good friend Doc Possum is holding his kind of family fun Christmas party at the Radisson here in Corning. It is tonight, and there'll be a special guest there, Taylor Hurd, who we heard from on the program not that long ago when she was involved in a local production. I don't remember the play's name. But they're asking that you please bring some food donation in support of the local food bank and pantries. It's the Doc Possum Christmas party tonight at the Corning Radisson. We saw a lot of his great music. And by the way, that's a great way to promote the show. Tomorrow we will not be in. Or on, right? Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, yeah. Or Christmas, obviously. But still tune in because I've put together a 2-hour broadcast with some of that great music from the telethons of years past. We got a lot of great music from the Crystal Chords, Doc Possum. So, maybe if you're wrapping your gifts or you're just getting around for the day, pardon me, put on, frankly speaking, you will not be disappointed. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Mark writes in, no cruise for me. JD all the way. Thank you. That sounds like you voted in the Turning Point USA poll. He got overwhelming support in that TP USA poll. But there is a piece out, we're going to get to it a little bit later on, hopefully, about Ted Cruz. The speculation is that he may run. Ken writes in, I heard a clip from an interview with Hakeem Jeffries. He was talking about Mike Johnson and that he was proud of the fact that he is making it hard for Johnson to, quote, govern. Isn't it sad that the minority leader in the House is happy to stop the federal government from governing? The only reason these people were elected and sent to Washington is that we want them to govern the country, not stop governance. Good point, Ken. That is a very good point. Yeah, I mean, they're really just hanging their heads on the fact that they're trying to stop the quote-unquote MAGA agenda. They made that very crystal clear. So you raised a really good point. Thank you, Ken. Yesterday, boy, this is getting a lot of media attention, too. President Trump announced a new fleet of ships known as the Golden Fleet. As he revealed, he approved plans for 2 new, very large battleships. As you know, we're desperately in need of ships. Our ships are some of them have gotten old and retired and obsolete. He said the new ships would be 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. And he wants to call them, this is where the media gets into a tizzy, the Trump class, including one named the USS Defiant. We haven't built a battleship since 1994. These cutting-edge vessels will be some of the most lethal surface warfare ships other than our submarines. Trump said the Navy would immediately start procuring 2 ships, working up to 10 and eventually 20 ships to 25 ships in total, and would aim to have the first 2 within 2.5 years. Trump described the ships as heavily armed platforms combining missiles and traditional naval guns. arguing that gun-based firepower could deliver combat effects at a fraction of the cost of missiles. Each ship would displace more than 30,000 tons to 40,000 tons and serve as a flagship of the U.S. fleet. The president said the battleship would be equipped with advanced weapons, including hypersonic missiles, electric railguns, and high-powered laser systems, as well as nuclear-capable sea-launched cruise missiles currently under development. Trump also said the ships would feature state-of-the-art defensive systems and carry what he described as tremendous number of missiles. It's a counter to everybody, he said. It's not China. We get along great with China. I have a great relationship with President Xi, and it's not China. It's just everybody. You don't know who comes along, but we just want peace through strength. So a lot of anger over him calling it the Trump class. One ship even called it USS Defiant. Stephen Collinson from CNN says, just call it Trump America. Come the next presidential inauguration of January 20th, 2029, there might not be much left that is not emblazoned with the Brander-in-Chief's name. The president announcing a new generation of battleships called the Trump-class vessels. Last week, President Trump's hand-picked new board of the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts voted to put his name up alongside that of the assassinated former president. Trump, unconvincingly, confessed that he was surprised by the honor he's been hinting he craved for weeks. Remember, this is coming from CNN, just to show you a little bit about how they lose their credibility. Not long before that, the president showed up at the newly named Donald J. Trump Institute for Peace. Next year, people will be able to buy pharmaceuticals from Trump RX. Parents will be able to open Trump accounts for newborns. Rich foreigners can buy Trump Gold Card visas. The president is building a new ballroom at the White House. It would be a shock if it's not named after him. The Trump-class ships are projected to take their place in the Golden Fleet as a maritime complement to the Golden Dome, the anti-missile shield that Trump also wants to protect the golden age he says the country is enjoying. The case for the new battleships is likely to spark great debate. Trump is correct that the U.S. Navy has been falling behind China in its inventory of vessels, and that the procurement process for new ships is notoriously expensive and slow. If he can improve that, he'll leave a worthy endowment for the U.S. on the high seas. Still, some experts believe massive ships are a romanticized relic of the past, best left in the epic 1950s documentary Victory at Sea. Okay. So now people are going to criticize him for having naval ships. Interesting. Trump's wish to be in on the design of the battleships because he's an aesthetic person also seems like an odd way to run a navy. But to be fair to the president, he doesn't just see the new fleet as a personal tribute, but as unmistakable symbols of national power and a source for many U.S. manufacturing jobs. Presidential legacies take decades to play out, so it's too early to say whether the Trump class of warships will redefine naval warfare and establish him as a visionary, or whether they might turn out to be costly flops, like some business venture and casinos that bore Trump's name, or short-lived billionaires' toys, like the Trump Shuttle Airline or the Tour de Trump Pro Cycling Race. Okay. I'm not going to go through all this because it then goes on to criticize Hegseth. It goes on to pretty much criticize anything that the Trump administration has done or will do in the future. And it's about 7-8 pages. And Trump's penchant for having his name everywhere is often jarring. The outrage stirs among liberals in the media is a classic tactic to delight the supporters who love him. More seriously, Trump's attempt to make his name ubiquitous are a window into his questionable views that the presidency grants him unfettered power to do anything he wants. And it's been long been obvious that Trump partly sees the presidency and its vast powers as a vehicle to promote himself, even when it means putting his own name on another man's memorial. His naming binge also comes with political risks at a time when millions of Americans are struggling to cope with high prices for groceries, housing, and health care. Trump is making it easy for his critics to argue that he's more concerned with his personal priorities and not those of Americans. This may explain his eroding approval ratings and the plunging public confidence in his economic management. Ultimately, Trump's affixing of his name to a new class of battleships is just one of the thousands of extraordinary twists in two terms the shattered expectations for how a president should behave. He could spend the next 3 years putting his name everywhere, but it'll be just as easy for the next Democrat president to erase it from buildings and ships. Fine presidential legacies are forged in deeds. Washington's greatest legacy was not that he gave his name to his new country's capital, but that he consciously refused to behave like a king. Wow, they overhype everything. No, hey, let's talk more about the military when we come back. Stay with us. I see some comments coming in. Keep those waves, those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is Jim from Famous Brands. We are ready for fall and loaded with all of your favorite brands. Great new deals are arriving every week. We have the largest selection of clothing and footwear in the Finger Lakes, all at below retail prices. Famous Brands, downtown Watkins Glen, where you're always looking good for less.
I was in my mother since she retired from work. When she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it just turned my life like upside down. It was difficult for me to identify because she normally forget where she left the keys or if she has something to do. She can have a conversation like normal with a neighbor, but suddenly she comes to me and she says, "Who's that? I don't know who's that." And she started like repeating the same questions. And when she was diagnosed, she said, "What are you telling me? No, I don't have this." Because she didn't want to recognize what was happening to her. 1 in 10 Americans over 65 has Alzheimer's disease, and 2/3 are women. For more information, go to brightfocus.org.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam with our Christmassy view of Marcus Street in the heart of the Gaffer District. Again, be careful on your way into work this morning. Save yourself a little time. Get out there a little early. Okay, we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, if the Democrats get the presidency back, their first executive order will be to change the names of everything that has Trump's name on it. The second executive order will be a blanket order that would cover rolling back every executive order that Trump did back to the Biden era. I agree, Ken, and we've been saying it from really the beginning, but I think when it became a really hot topic of conversation was with the ballroom, where not only did they talk about, not the naming of it, they talked about tearing down the ballroom just essentially out of spite. Eric Swalwell did walk that back a little bit, but I have no doubt that ballroom, if a Democrat wins right away, right after Trump, and there's still that Trump derangement syndrome, then yes, I could see that being torn down. I really could. Mark writes in, kind of on the other side of that coin, Trump should rename D.C. Instead of Washington, D.C., it could be Trump, D.C. Thank you, Mark. I think you're fanning the flames a little bit there. J.D. Vance, speaking of the military, joined the Navy SEALs yesterday for an intense 90-minute beach workout featuring running, rope climbing, and log carrying exercises that left the vice president feeling like he said, quote, got hit by a freight train. The Marine veteran acknowledging that the SEALs went easy on him during their training at the Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in California. He said, just finished PT with the Navy SEALs for 90 minutes. They took it easy on me, and I still feel like I got hit by a freight train. So grateful to all of our warriors who keep us safe and keep the highest standards anywhere in the world. Yeah, the pictures look like, I'm sure they did take it easy on him. But it also, it didn't look like a walk in the park, that's for sure. Vance's return to military training echoes Pete Hegseth, who did that not that long ago. He periodically works out with the troops. It is interesting because we know that Hegseth doesn't like beards for some reason, so he calls no more beardos, remember, in the military? Well, it's interesting because, of course, the vice president has a beard. He praised Hegseth for trying to implement very high standards, but it should be noted that the vice president was the only person pictured with a beard during the training exercises. Quote, when I was a young United States Marine, I did not have a beard. I'm now the vice president, so I get to do what I want to do, he told reporters. Now, many of the faces of the SEALs were blurred out in the photos, obviously for security reasons. But kind of a twofold there. A little bit of the MAHA, how do you say that? MAHA? The Make America Healthy Again movement, as well as highlighting our military. Now, the U.S. was flexing its military might yesterday as President Trump warned Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro against taking military action against the U.S., telling reporters that if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough. The remark came after Trump was asked why Maduro should take seriously Washington's pressure campaign. Quote, he could do whatever he wants. We have a massive armada form, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He could do whatever he wants. It's all right, whatever he wants to do. It came hours after U.S. Southern Command showed off the efforts of roughly 2,200 Marines training in the Caribbean this month in a series of eye-popping photos on Monday as the Trump administration ramps up pressure on Maduro. Part of the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Force, the troops were pictured firing mortar systems in live fire drills during reconnaissance. I'm going to try reconnaissance. I always have trouble with that word. Selection and occupation of position maneuvers recently, and training on first-person view attack drones in Puerto Rico, as well as conducting flight operations aboard the amphibious assault ship USS Iwo Jima in the Caribbean Sea. The photos are remarkable if you have a chance to look them over, but kind of flexing our military might as Trump gives that warning to Venezuelans, Maduro. If he plays tough, it will be the last time he plays tough. Russia has evacuated their diplomats' families from Venezuela as the United States seizes oil tankers. The evacuations, which started Friday and included women and children, come as Russian officials assess the situation in Venezuela in what the intelligence source described as very grim tones. The withdrawals signaled heightened concerns about stability in the South American nation as the Trump administration escalates its 4-month pressure campaign against President Nicolas Maduro's government. More than 10 vehicles bearing diplomatic license plates stood outside Russia's embassy in Caracas Monday morning, though no personnel were visible entering or exiting the compound. The vehicles had departed by early afternoon. Neither the White House nor the Kremlin responded to a request for comment. Now, on that, we have a few things. I just have 2 things here about Venezuela that is worth mentioning from the Democrat position. Representative Adam Smith, he was on NPR's Morning Edition. He was asked about the legal basis to stop and board some oil tankers around Venezuela. He said there is a legal basis for it if you're one of these vessels, if you're flying under a false flag or no flag, and if you are engaged in illegal activities. This goes on all over the world. The dark fleet you referred to earlier, no one operates more dark fleet vessels than Russia, for instance. So this happens a lot, and there is a legal basis for boarding and stopping and inspecting. It's a lot murkier if you get into the issue of seizing the assets. Here we go. Again, Democrat Representative Adam Smith. But the legal basis is sort of beside the point. The reason they are being targeted amongst the at least dozen, if not more, of these vessels operating around the world is because the president wants to drive Maduro from power. This is about regime change and the conflict with Venezuela, which more than it's about trying to enforce international laws against false flag vessels or dark fleet vessels. Later, in response to a question on cutting off funding for the campaign against Venezuela, Smith said, we could cut off funds for this sort of operation. A bunch of things we could do if the Republicans decide that their policy beliefs are greater than their political fear of Donald Trump. And we're not there yet at this point. We've got to keep pushing. So again, stopping the tankers is legal, but that's beside the point. And that they could ultimately cut off funds. Why is that beside the point? Because it's Trump's initiative. So at the end of the day, kind of to Ken's point about governing, it's legal, but they don't like it because it's Trump. Democrat Representative Brad Sherman from California was on CNN News Central. He had kind of a similar tone. Well, there may be legal justification to go over this one tanker, Sherman said, but this started as if it were focused on drugs, and we quickly learned that was just a ruse. Because while Trump has murdered the mules, he has liberated the kingpins, including Juan Hernandez, who was serving 45 years in prison for importing, I think it's 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. So we saw this as if they were drugs. Now it appears to be an attempt to either economically strangle Cuba, Venezuela, or both, and usually that doesn't turn out well. My concern would be that we're going to turn Venezuela into another American military involvement or into a failed state. We'd all like to see the end of Maduro, but I'm not sure that Trump has a logical plan to go there that doesn't involve very substantial risk. So Sherman worried, though, even though it's legal, he's worried that it will turn Venezuela, quote, into a failed state. On that note, we got other Trump updates, but we're running just a little bit late. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Help the Steuben Senior Services Fund continue its mission. Donate now.
But I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Look at that beautiful view. I can't get over it. Looks great. Thank you to Boss Security. Gets us in the Christmas spirit. I'm trying to find some other Christmas music. Anyway, we're back. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to all. Yes, Merry Christmas to all. We will tomorrow have great music from tomorrow and Christmas Day. Great music from the Crystal Chords, Doc Possum. If you're relatively new to the program, every year we've done this. Just play some great Christmas music sent to us by Crystal Chords or Doc Possum. And we've got 2 hours now. The only change up is we have that quick little interview with the new captains of the Salvation Army, because we talk so much about the Salvation Army because that's where the music comes from to support our telethon. So I thought, well, they're brand new to the area, and if someone missed it during the telethon, I thought it'd be nice to have a quick interview. But otherwise, it is nothing but great music tomorrow and Christmas Day. So I hope that you'll join, frankly speaking. This kind of has a local connection here, but this is interesting. The White House has threatened the Smithsonian and their funding in a sweeping content review. Now, if you recall, and I think the fight is relatively ongoing, but local Julian Raven had a really big fight going with the Smithsonian for what is not even a perceived bias. It's a pretty out there bias. Pretty proud of it, as a matter of fact. Well, the Trump administration escalated pressure on the Smithsonian this week, threatening to withhold federal funds if it does not submit extensive documentation for a sweeping content review. President Donald Trump earlier this year set out to purge what he called improper ideology from the nation's most prestigious museum system, efforts that are expected to intensify as his administration tries to shape the country's 250th anniversary celebration next year. In a staff email obtained by the Washington Post, Smithsonian Secretary Lonnie Bunch III said the Smithsonian had sent information to the White House in September and intends to submit more that day. He asserted that all content, programming, and decisions are made by the Smithsonian. We don't have to go through all this, but just another avenue kind of to root out the bias, root out waste, fraud, and corruption. As I mentioned, this has been an ongoing legal battle with the Smithsonian for quite some time. So I just wanted to pass that along to you. We'll see where that is headed. Okay. Let's talk a little bit. I think we're all a little sick of this, but maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't put words in anybody's mouth. But we can talk about just a quick couple things here about the Epstein files. I do want to, in the next hour, get to New York State issues because there's a lot of them. I asked a question earlier. There's an article out that suggests that Ted Cruz is thinking about running for president, even if J.D. Vance gets there. There would be a primary. I'd love to not see a primary, but I think that's unrealistic. I like Ted Cruz, but I'm just saying that seems like a fool's errand, but your thoughts on it. But before that, let's talk Epstein. Claire McCaskill was on MSN Now on Monday, and she said both Republicans and Democrats will vote to hold Attorney General Pam Bondi in inherent contempt. You know, we have a vote of Congress. I think there was one member of the House that voted against the law and maybe one senator. I don't remember how many senators. So Congress has spoken with one voice here. This isn't about Democrats or Republicans. This is about a decision that it all comes out. Under the law, they were supposed to release all of it. They released less than 5% of the files. They say they have, less than 5%. Now, by the way, they were able to marshal through FBI agents to scour all these files for Trump's name back earlier this year. And obviously, Trump didn't want them released once he was told by Pam Bondi, your name's all through them. So I think you're going to see both Republicans and Democrats move towards inherent contempt, which means it does have to go to a court. It just takes a vote. It does not have to go to a court. It just has to take a vote of the House, and then they can start fining Pam Bondi an amount every day until she follows the law. Representative Jason Crow, Democrat from Colorado, said he would support a contempt proceeding against Bondi. Yeah, I would support that. I mean, the lawlessness of our Attorney General, of our FBI Director, of our Secretary of Defense continues unabated, right? And I agree with your former guest. I don't believe we're going to see all these files until there's a different occupant in the White House, right? Well, you mean like the previous people in the White House that could have very easily released it, like Biden, Obama before that? Okay, I mean, maybe. Donald Trump has weaponized the federal government to his favor against his political opponents. Let's not forget the fact that me and Mark Kelly and several other members of Congress are currently under FBI investigation for simply stating the law and reminding our service members that their obligation under the Constitution is. So this administration will weaponize the DOJ and the FBI against their political opponents, and then they'll use it to insulate themselves and their allies. I'm not holding my breath that we're going to get a full disclosure now. We're going to continue to push for that, and I will join in all my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats alike, who are willing to push for full disclosure because that is what the victims deserve. But this president is very clearly going to do anything possible to avoid accountability. Eric Swalwell was on CNN's The Lead. He's going to run for president, right? Or what's he running for? No, governor of California, right? though I think he does have his eyes on the White House. He says that Congress should defund the Department of Justice over the partial Epstein list release. We are building... Oh, where is it? Swalwell said, well, it's feasible and everything should be on the table, including, defunding some of the department's efforts that they're using right now to weaponize government. They have the power of the purse, and we have a mandate in Congress. Phil, as you know, nearly every member, 534 out of 535, essentially between the House and the Senate, voted to have these files released. Now, stepping back, it appears that they're doing this to protect Donald Trump. There you are. Now, Trump did decry yesterday the release of the embarrassing photos of Bill Clinton. We'll talk about that. Then there's an opinion piece. Who was it by? Paula Frolick, who says it's time for Bill Clinton, like Prince Andrew, banish him from polite society. We'll talk about that as well. But we've got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, our beautiful view of historic Market Street on this snowy winter's morning. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. This is in reference to the comments we were making if Democrats get back in the White House and the erasing of Trump's name and some of his legacy. The third agenda, unfortunately, will be to open the border again. After that, start the revenge tour of prosecuting those against the party. Shut down coal and oil production, reinstate all the Doge funding, and do as their global elite overlords command. Back towards the new normal. Same old, same old. Probably put men back in women's sports and all trans back in the military. In other words, everything back to the way before Trump. That would be their ultimate goal. I mean, going back to who I just quoted, Eric Swalwell, he said he wanted to tear down it would be a litmus test for Democrats to basically who's going to tear down the ballroom. Comment from a different viewer. I don't believe they ever fined or gave a penalty to Eric Holder when he was the first attorney general ever held in contempt of Congress for lying about what they were doing, and it was they. He didn't run fast and furious on his own. That's a very good point. That's a very good history lesson there. Thank you very much. So we're talking about the Epstein scenario. President Trump revealed that he does not like the Justice Department's release of embarrassing photos of a half-naked Bill Clinton swimming with late sex predator Jeffrey Epstein's madam. No, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago. And that was one of the criticisms. And the one person that voted against the release of the files, that was their argument, that there'll be people whose lives are ruined just because they met someone they did not know the reputation of. And if you look at it, for instance, just interesting, I mean, I don't know what kind of relationship they had, but there's the picture released with Michael Jackson and some others that it just happened to probably be like if you met a celebrity. It is going to create, oh yeah, Mick Jagger was another one. It is going to create a weird situation. Now, Bill Clinton, to his point, has demanded that all Epstein files be released, claiming there's 1,000 more pictures still being held from the public. In a statement by Angel Urena, spokesperson for President Bill Clinton, saying the Epstein Files Transparency Act imposes a clear legal duty on the U.S. Department of Justice to produce the full and complete record of public demand and the public demands and deserves. However, what the Department of Justice has released so far and the manner in which it did so makes one thing clear. Someone or something is being protected. We do not know whom, what, or why, but we do know this. We need no such protection. Accordingly, we call on President Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. This includes, without limitation, any records that may exist and are subject to disclosure under the Act, including grand jury transcripts, interview notes, photographs, and findings by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, as referenced under oath to Congress by President Trump's first-term Attorney General. Refusal to do so will confirm the widespread suspicion the Department of Justice's actions today are not about transparency, but about insinuation, using selective releases to imply wrongdoing about individuals who've already been repeatedly cleared by the very same Department of Justice over many years under presidents and attorney generals of both parties. Now, as we said originally, there was never going to be a win on this for the administration, only because even if everything is released word for word, they're still going to say it's or that they're going to get conspiratorial and say that there's still more, they're covering up. We've already seen criticism for too much redacting, and then I've seen on the other side criticism because someone's name was accidentally not redacted. It's a bad scenario, but well, we got to take a short break. When we come back, one other thing on this that I think you'll find interesting. Stay with us, and then we're going to wrap up hour number one. We'll be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hello? Hi. Where are you guys? Thanksgiving dinner's almost on the table. What? No, that can't be right. I just saw them last night. A drunk driver? But no, I just saw them. They're gone? They're gone.
Youth Clubs provides professional and technical assistance to all our affiliate clubs all around the world. We already have 44 countries that are behind us providing safe spaces for kids, but there are 160 other countries we'd like to reach out to. Yeah. Right, Rod? Exactly. We need you to help fund the World Youth Clubs and make their dream come true.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So, Paula Frolick says the man formerly known as Prince Andrew has had a catastrophic year. Due to growing public disgust over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, he's had his given and hereditary titles stripped and is being booted out of his home. Across the pond, we have our own problematic prince, or rather problematic former president, and he needs to be banished too. Late last week, the Justice Department unveiled a trove of photographs once owned by Epstein. Among them are several of Bill Clinton in what looks like compromising positions. We know the pictures. I don't have to get through too much of it. Naturally, Clinton has a tried and true. It's not about me. It's political. The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next, or from what they'll try and hide forever, the statement read. The question must be asked once again, why is Bill Clinton still being entertained, not just by high society, but by the Democrat Party as a respected statesman? He is a known liar, an alleged rapist, according to Juanita Broaddrick, who has never recanted her claims that Clinton, exactly. A man who, without admitting guilt, said Paula Jones $850,000 to settle a sexual assault case. Clinton's attorney has previously called the Broaddrick allegations absolutely false. Clinton has always maintained that while he did indeed fly with Epstein 4 times, flight logs and travel on Epstein's plane have been documented, it was narrowly connected to work with the Clinton Global Initiative. But who actually believes that? Other newly released photos show Clinton touring Winston Churchill's war room in London with Maxwell and Kevin Spacey, and in Bahrain with Epstein, looking a lot more like besties and business acquaintances. We're also now learning about trips to Thailand and Morocco. Before the photo dump, there was just one major picture of Clinton that raised eyebrows, the one of him getting a massage from a young woman, alleged Epstein victim Shantae Davies, before flying on Epstein's so-called Lolita Express. Disturbing, yes, but the American public had become inured to the man dubbed Bill Clinton. I'm not going to go through some of the nicknames. Another lie, his friendship with Epstein was no big deal. In a bombshell drop last week, the Post reported on yet another photo that had shades of Prince Andrew, of Clinton, and his daughter Chelsea posing at the King of Morocco's 2002 wedding with Epstein and Maxwell. A second source claimed that Clinton insisted and pushed for Maxwell and Epstein to be brought to the wedding. Like ex-Prince Andrew, Clinton vacationed with Epstein, visited Epstein in his New York City home, brought his daughter into photographs with Epstein, and was happy to surround himself with young, good-looking women connected to Epstein. So why is Clinton still celebrated at the highest levels of the Democrat Party and society? In June, the creme de la creme of society and politics, including Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Jennifer Lawrence, Sienna Miller, attended the wedding of billionaire Alex Soros to former Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin, and all jockeyed to chat with the former president. And they go through other examples. Now's the time for Teflon Bill to do the same. It's been a long time coming, but the sledgehammer of karma has finally hit its mark, saying he needs to step down from that kind of high society. Your thoughts on that? But we are out of time. When we come back, we're going to talk about New York State issues, a couple other updates. Again, asking the question, Ted Cruz, it's being speculated, may run for president even if J.D. Vance decides to run. Your thoughts on that? We'll talk a little bit about Vance here, too, as well. Stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 moments away. Plenty to cover, plenty to update you on, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Remember, tomorrow we have the Christmas edition, and Christmas Day we have the Christmas edition with great music, frankly speaking, but we will not be in live for those days. So you got to get your comments in while you're thinking of them. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's get to some viewer comments, then we're going to jump into some New York State issues. Mark writes in, as far as the Epstein files, I think the Democrats should be careful of what they wish for, as it might bring some of the party down. Thank you very much, Mark. Ken writes in, if I was a betting man, I would say that given the tactics we have seen the Democrats try and use against Trump in the past, and since the Democrats didn't even try and release the Epstein files in the 4 years that they were in total control, and that now they are yelling at the top of their lungs to release all the files, they spent the last 4 years modifying the Epstein files to reduce the Democrats' involvement and implicate Trump and the Republicans. That would also be another reason that they know all the files aren't being released, because they know what they created. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. I know we talked about that in the past, because why not release it under the Biden administration? And by the way, my thought has always been, if they had something on Trump, you don't think they would report on it and released it? Of course they would have, because that would have been such a huge win for Biden and for Harris. So to me, it doesn't track, but trust me, the media loves running with it. All right, New York State. Linda Sun, the alleged Chinese agent who worked high up in Hochul's administration and worked for then Governor Cuomo at the time. Her trial ended in a hung jury yesterday after the panel couldn't unanimously agree on whether to convict the former top aides to Governors Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo of illegally serving as a Chinese agent. A Brooklyn federal judge declared a mistrial in the corruption case against Sun, who was accused of pushing Beijing's agenda at the highest level of state government in exchange for payoffs that funded her lavish lifestyle. One juror told the New York Post, after that, all but 2 of the 12 panelists were prepared to find Sun and her husband Chris Hugh guilty of 18 out of the 19 corruption and fraud charges they faced. All but one juror was set to convict on the remaining count. It was almost all guilty. The U.S. Attorney's almost isn't close enough. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York said after the mistrial was declared that it would bring the couple to trial for a second time, quote, as soon as possible. The shocking Christmas week outcome followed a month-long trial that revealed what prosecutors called Sun's brazen bids to advance China's interests while working in the executive chamber. The scheme allegedly netted Sun and her husband payments that funded luxury cars and designer handbags, plus perks like delectable salted ducks. But lawyers for Sun countered that the embattled ex-Albany insider was actually just a dedicated public servant who admittedly cozy relations with consulate brass, that was a part of her job. There's that awkward video, if you haven't seen it, of Governor Hochul kind of doing Miss Sun's bidding and talking with the consulate on that Christmas message. And in the email exchange, we learned that Sun believed that Governor Hochul was more malleable, was more flexible, was more willing to follow her orders. Linda Sun is a proud American and lifetime New Yorker who was well regarded by her peers, said defense attorney Kenneth Abel. Did she do everything perfectly? Absolutely not, but she did not commit any crimes. The 12-person jury sent Judge Brian Cogan 2 notes last week saying it was hopelessly deadlocked on the various felony charges that Sun and Hugh faced. The panel sent a 3rd note Monday about being unable to reach a verdict, at which point Cogan huddled with prosecutors and defense lawyers to discuss whether to declare a hung jury. Son and Hugh held hands at the defense table as they waited to find out what would unfold next. "I'm going to let you go now," Cogan told the jurors before explaining the case had ended in a mistrial. The judge scheduled a pre-trial conference for January 26th of next year. Prosecutors had called 41 witnesses and displayed a mountain of texts in which Sun touted her supposed sway over Hochul to Chinese consulate honchos. She showered her family with free ballet tickets and private chef-prepared salted duck cooked in the style of her family's hometown. "She is much more obedient than the governor," Sun wrote back in 2021 about Governor Hochul. I don't want to go through all that. We know all about it. But at the end, after all of that, the Sun trial has been declared a mistrial in the case of that top aide to Hochul and Cuomo being accused of being a Chinese agent. All right. By the way, did you see Governor Hochul yesterday going on a massive 800 bill spree? Yeah. Governor Hochul embarked on a flurry of end-of-the-year bill signings and vetoes with charitable organizations and creepy-crawly horseshoe crabs emerging as some of the wacky winners. With the legislative spree largely done by Monday, the governor ultimately acted on a whopping 853 pieces of legislation in 2025. "We had a lot of tough bills to consider. We got to the right place," Hochul said. "Maybe next year there will be less than 850, but who knows?" Hochul in recent days also approved A-list legislation focused on AI and prison reform during what experts called a fairly routine year in Albany, aside from her troublesome growing habit of demanding post-passage tweaks to the bills. Here's some of the notable legislation Hochul took on, from the big time to the somewhat ridiculous surprises. When it came to AI, an artificial intelligence safety bill, the Responsible Artificial Intelligence Safety and Education Act, or RAISE Act, got Hochul's okay after months of haggling with state lawmakers. The legislature has passed the bill setting guardrails on advanced AI models in June, drawing an outcry from big tech companies such as Google and OpenAI. The tech giant argued that the bill should be closer to a similar measure passed in California. A Go Hochul said on Monday the refined language had achieved. Hochul contends signing the bill was important because Congress and President Trump had effectively abdicated any responsibility in regulating AI. "It's up to the states to lead. We're not trying to stifle development. We're here to make sure there are safeguards in place." The tweak legislation requires developers to create AI frameworks with standardized criteria and to report critical safety incidents to New York within 72 hours. Those tweaks were made through the so-called chapter amendments, a secretive process in which lawmakers effectively repass a bill with changes requested by the governor. Joe Caney, executive director of Good Government Group Reinvent Albany, said the process reeks of undemocratic three-people-in-a-room governance, and that Hochul has increasingly used it instead of outright vetoing bills. "She's rewriting bills. Legislators are not defending their turf, they're ceding their turf," he said. Now, there was also, this is always scary, prison reform. Hochul also tweaked and signed a high-profile prison reform bill after shocking fatal beatings of inmates by corrections officers. The law will require video footage of inmates' death to be released, triples the size of the state's Commission on Correction, and calls on prisons to install cameras in infirmaries. The murder of Robert Brooks, who was beaten to death by an upstate corrections officer while in an infirmary during a caught-on-video attack, made the reforms necessary. Brooks was tortured by people who were supposed to protect him, she said. Another bill that got changed to Hochul's liking was about the MTA. We don't need to know about the MTA. Then some of the odds and ends, shall we? This again, Hochul going on a massive 800 bill spree. The humble horseshoe crab got extra protection to help ensure its 440 million years of existence don't end soon. Imagine the ego, the confidence in yourself, the kind of delusion of grandeur that you think Albany, and specifically Governor Hochul, needs to step in to protect a crab that has existed for 440 million years. It's kind of like the idea of global warming, right? The world is overheating by man, and man is the only one that can fix it. the Earth. In this case, a creature that's been in existence for 440 million years. Thank heavens they have Governor Hochul and those in Albany to protect it. Hochul signed the Horseshoe Crab Protection Act, which ultimately bans the older than the dinosaur critters from being commercially fished or taken for biomedical purposes, after vetoing a similar measure last week. The sea creature's literal blue blood contains antibacterial properties prized by the medical industry. Horseshoe crabs are a vital keystone species to New York, often called living fossils, and are important to our environment, she wrote. She signed this year's Horseshoe Crab Saving Bill because lawmakers agreed to make changes along for alternatives that don't deplete the Empire State's population of shoreline scurrying living fossils. Quote, last year I vetoed similar legislation due to concerns that this bill could have unintended consequences on the commercial fishing industry and biomedical advancements. The effective date of this bill did not leave those industries enough time to transition to alternatives. All right, we continue. Charitable organizations, including volunteer firefighters and veterans nonprofit groups, can also continue to use electric bell jar machines for fundraising under a bill approved by the governor. Hochul also signed a repeal of a... That's actually very good for volunteer fire departments and veterans nonprofit groups and the like. But Hochul also signed a repeal of a rule requiring gas companies to hook up to new buildings within 100 feet of existing gas lines free of cost. We talked about, Phil Palmisano was not happy about that. We read you his statement yesterday. And she signed a measure requiring warning labels on social media. Hochul ultimately signed 712 pieces of legislation, vetoed 141, and left 3 on her desk, including a bill allowing doctor-assisted suicide, which she promised to sign next year as of Monday. Why the delay, unless she wants to have some kind of grandiose press conference on that, maybe? We know she's already written an op-ed on the assisted suicide bill. So maybe, because why not just sign it along with all the others? Why leave it on your desk until after the new year? Just, well, again, maybe to do some more pomp and circumstance and have a big press conference to get more attention, I suppose. The tally is higher than the 804 bills she handled in 2024 and largely on par with previous years, aside from during the COVID pandemic. California Governor Gavin Newsom, for comparison, signed 794 bills into law and vetoed 123 during his state's legislative session. Do we have too much government control? Doesn't that seem a little bit over the top and how many bills we need? I mean, to protect a 440 million year old creature, Albany feels that they are the only ones that can do that. Goes to show you a little bit of the mindset we're dealing with when it comes to Albany. I know I mentioned this in the last hour, just before we take our first break of hour number 2. I got the date wrong yesterday. Doc Possum's Christmas party is actually tonight at the Radisson. Please bring a food donation in support of the local food bank, pantries, holiday drive. There'll be a special guest there, Taylor Hurd. So there'll be Christmas trivia and bingo, Christmas sing-alongs, Taylor Hurd live, as I mentioned, giveaways and prizes. So Doc Possum's Christmas party is tonight at the Radisson in Corning. All right, let's take a short break, and then we'll be back. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at iqairfoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. It's a beautiful view out there this morning. Looks very Christmassy. Let's go to some viewer comments as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Comment, it certainly shows a less mentality when they totally ignore the fact of compromising photos of Bill Clinton while trying to frame Trump for something he didn't do. Again, I believe Trump probably was around Epstein until he saw what was going on and then kicked Epstein to the curb. Comment continuing, jury tampering without a doubt in good old New York State, one of the most corrupt states in America. Thank you very much. And finally, over 800 mostly meaningless bills, all designed to justify their existence of the most dysfunctional state government in America. Great point. Comment from a different viewer. Ken writes in, I know you can't put this on, but I think you got the name of the Protection Act wrong. It's the Horse Blank Protection Act. Thanks, kind of like that. And finally, Mark writes in, those bills of Hochul sign sound a little crabby to me. I agree. Guys having fun this morning. All right. Speaking of New York, New York's comptroller Tom DiNapoli has been accused of ineffectively investing the state's $291 billion common retirement fund, leaving taxpayers on the hook for billions. One of DiNapoli's long-shot primary challengers, housing nonprofit CEO and state comptroller candidate Drew Warsaw, bashed the comptroller for presiding over a nearly 400% increase in spending on Wall Street investment managers' fees, far outpacing the fund's returns. The shocking uptick in spending was uncovered in a report authored by Warsaw in consultation with Ryan Cummings, an economist at Stanford University, that was shared exclusively with the New York Post. Quote, we're talking about the third largest fund manager in the entire country who's drastically underperformed his own benchmarks for nearly 20 years and crushed taxpayers in the process while enriching hundreds of bankers in the middle of an affordability crisis. Warsaw's models his alternative approach in his paper based on data extraction from the Common Retirement Fund's annual financial report. He points out that DiNapoli has hired more active investment managers who charge sometimes hefty fees to seek a higher return on the fund's investment. Had the comptroller simply paid the lower fractional cost of investing in a diversified set of index funds, instead of paying hundreds of investment managers $11.3 billion in fees, the comptroller would have saved New York taxpayers $59.1 billion. The roughly $60 billion price tag for taxpayers appears in payments into the fund from the state and municipalities over DiNapoli's 18 years in office. Has he been comptroller for 18 years? DiNapoli's team said hiring more investment managers is justified given the rise of new diverse asset classes since he took office just before the 2008 financial crisis. They also largely brushed off Warsaw's conclusion as flawed. This guy can't even do basic math, said DiNapoli's campaign manager. New York's pension plan is virtually fully funded and one of the strongest in the nation. Any plan that moves away from a well-diversified portfolio, especially one based on a shoddy report full of math mistakes, endangers the retirement security of more than 1 million working families. New York taxpayers deserve more. Wow, isn't that exciting? The comptroller's race. So yesterday, and well, really for quite some time, we've talked a lot about Elise Stefanik. And it's kind of, I guess, discouraging to see the coverage because there are a lot of people gloating over this. We had a couple of the articles yesterday, though we didn't get in depth over them, but basically saying Elise Stefanik gets what she deserves. If you are loyal to the president, he won't be loyal to you. Now, I can understand if that's the ultimate reason why she decided not to run for governor. I can understand it. Not getting the full support of President Trump, and that meaning a primary is coming. I can see why she said never mind and feel kind of jaded by politics in general. Now, I don't like, and it seems like it's going to be the case, I really don't necessarily like the idea of Bruce Blakeman almost getting rewarded for staying in the race and causing this primary. What I mean by that is, with her stepping out, he looks like the likely nominee, and there probably won't be a primary. I know some people are reaching out to Mike Lawler, asking him to jump back in. That seems like a tough row to hoe when you think about he already suspended. You have to make up your reasoning for that. You'd also, you kind of get it, you shift gears, right? And you're not in that mode, and you had all that time that you lost where you could have been fundraising, you could have been getting name recognition. So I do not have a very rosy outlook on November. I'm just being honest with you when it comes to gubernatorial race. But city and state, this is what I mean by the kind of the celebration in their mind of mocking Elise Stefanik, who has been such an effective congresswoman, who has done such a great job in her career. In this opinion piece by Tom Allen, the rise and fall of Elise Stefanik, karma finally caught up with the MAGA acolyte. Now, I wouldn't say it's a fall at all. This was the decision that she made. I don't understand why she doesn't just run for re-election to Congress, because she could win that seat easily and have it for as long as she wants. But I do think she is, the word we were using yesterday was jilted or jaded of the world of politics after the non-endorsement. For most Democrats and probably many college presidents, yeah, we're going to miss those amazing hearings, aren't we? The news on Friday of Elise Stefanik's career implosion, again overhyped in that statement, was likely met with classic laughter as the upstate MAGA acolyte joined a growing list of once loyal but now disposable Trump allies. I know this is going to get your blood boiling. I'm just mentioning it because this is the narrative. And I would say it's not a career implosion. She could easily have run for re-election to Congress even after stepping away from the governor's race and won. So what the decision she made was based on, like she said, where she wants to go in life, where she wants to spend more time with her family. Just a few weeks earlier, one of Stefanik's colleagues, Marjorie Taylor Greene, went rogue and started criticizing the president over his handling of the Epstein files. Now Trump mocks her as Marjorie Trader Greene, and her days in Congress are nearly over as she's retiring in early January. Stefanik will follow her to the private sector 1 year later, having decided not to run for re-election to Congress. MAGA world had few members as loyal as Stefanik and MTG during the first Trump administration and in the run-up to last year's presidential election. The thought of them breaking up with their fearless leader or being cast aside, depending on your perspective, was once unimaginable. I don't see where Stefanik is any kind of quote-unquote breaking up with the leader or being cast aside. But that is what loyalty gets you these days in D.C. As the old saying goes, in politics there are no long-term friendships, just temporary alliances. Members of Congress who want a reliable friend should get a puppy. Stefanik's suspension of her gubernatorial campaign was the talk of the town, with every savvy politico scratching their head searching for a motive for such a drastic turnaround. Stefanik only announced her candidacy 6 weeks ago, but had been maneuvering to get the GOP nomination for many months, even successfully chasing fellow upstate Representative Mike Lawler from the race. It was no secret in D.C. that the 41-year-old hard-charging representative of the North Country was looking for an escape route from Congress. It looked like her fierce loyalty to Trump had paid off after the 2024 election when Trump nominated her to the UN ambassador. Picturing Stefanik playing nicely in the East Side sandbox was stretching credulity, but her pugilism was actually a plus in MAGA land. But before she could become UN Secretary General or ambassador from other nations, Stefanik's name was withdrawn. The GOP congressional majority was too narrow for them to leave her seat vacant until a special election. She rebounded a few months ago when she decided to explore a gubernatorial run. The chance to sling mud for a year at Kathy Hochul seemed like a juicy opportunity for the ambitious Pole. After she announced her candidacy in early November, she was like a bronco out of the starting gate. Every day my email inbox was littered with multiple screeching Stefanik press missives. Boy, you can tell the hatred for her and the hatred for Trump in this piece, can't you? What transpired in that one day that changed everything for Stefanik? Her statement announcing the suspension of a campaign implied that she had an epiphany that being a full-time mom was more important than chasing the state's highest office. Could be. If that's the case, more power to her and her family for making this tough choice. But the political chattering class seemed to think the real reason was two recent events involving Trump that upended her political career. Her major campaign theme was tying Hochul and the Democrats to Commie Mamdani. And Stefanik thought she could ride that story to the governor's mansion. But a funny thing happened last month when the president actually meant Zohran Mamdani. We all remember that surreal scene when the president looked adoringly at the new mayor-elect in a way that likely made Eric and Don Jr. jealous. No more Commie Mamdani. For Trump, it was now my good friend Zohran, who I will help succeed in New York. And when Trump was asked whether he agreed with Stefanik's ludicrous claim that Mamdani was a jihadist, he publicly undermined her, saying, "No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaign." After the UN debacle, this was the second time that Trump had betrayed Stefanik, his loyal acolyte, who just a year ago took down 2 college presidents in congressional hearings. To prove her toughness of Trump, she did it because it was right. This is what I mean. I know I shouldn't be spending so much time on this, but this concept that everybody in Washington is scared of Trump when, in fact, they're just doing what they believe is right for the country. But that comes from a perspective of somebody that hates Trump, that the only way you could actually support Trump's plans and Trump's initiatives and Trump's mindset is if you're terrified of him, because that's twofold. That means that the Republicans that do that are cowards, and it means that Trump's ideas are bad. So if someone says that they're just know that that's coming from a place of anti-Trump hatred. That is what that is, and that's what this piece has been reeking of from the beginning. But then I talked about Blakeman, and we all know what happened there. I can only imagine Stefanik's reaction to that statement. Likely rage that she was now 3 times hurt by Trump. Oh my goodness, I'm running late. She probably thought to herself, forget it, I'm done with politics. Time to make a lot of money and spend more time with my family. Stefanik's only 41, so a comeback down the road when Trump and her nemesis, Mike Johnson, are long gone is not inconceivable. Karma caught up with the representative for the North Country. There's only one person in this country who can insult everyone, trample on Democrat norms, and still survive, and his initials are DJT. How is that karma? Boy, that was a stretch. I don't know why I'd go that way. I thought it was worth mentioning, but now I just got myself worked up. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Wow, I am late. Stay with us.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
This is a Sue the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Ferrari Auto Team! Buy a new 2025 Ram 1500 Crew. Just $43,330. You save $10,000.
Or buy a new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, just $38,490. You save $10,000.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
It's the Wrap Up the Year sales event going on now at Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corner. Man, we are moving right along. We got a lot of great comments coming in. I might not be able to get to all of them because I didn't have a chance to read all of them. I was filling out my tea, and I like to read them before. Let's get right to it. I'm sorry. All right. Comment number 1. Ken writes in, did you see that Democrats have come up with a way to get Mamdani out of the promise he made on freezing rent in New York City? They got Adams to appoint new members to the Rent Guidelines Board, which gives the board a majority of members that don't want the rent frozen. This is a nice way for Mamdani a way out of a very damaging and ill-conceived plan. Thank you, Ken. Yes, it does give Mamdani a way out. Because, I mean, there's one thing on what you campaign on, right? There's another thing what you can actually do without destroying the city or destroying your political future. Steve writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. Wishing you and yours a very happy and a very Merry Christmas and holiday season. Well, the same to you, Steve. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you. He also says, why hasn't the over 350,000 votes in Georgia that were considered invalid not a bigger story than what it is? Is there anybody actually covering this? But when you look at the big picture in the long run, it was probably better that Trump wasn't president in 2020 because now he actually gets that time in there and doing what's best for the American citizens. I will say, we've said this in the past on the program, I think it is kind of a blessing because that 4 years when he was in office gave him time to come up with plans, to come up with executive orders, to come up with ways of campaigning, and also to kind of study the loss in a way and realize, okay, last time you had a lot of leaks, right? A lot of people discrediting his campaign or discrediting his White House behind closed doors. He had people that weren't loyal to him because I know the media says loyalty is all that matters. Well, he needed people that were loyal around him because that wasn't happening very often in the first term. So he handpicked people that would be more in line with the MAGA movement. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of upsides to him having that 4-year window to kind of regroup and plan ahead. And I think he proved that, hitting the ground running. I mean, we're talking about this like it's his last year. He hasn't even been in office in his second term for even 1 year yet. Now, I know it's close, little under a month away to the 1 year mark, but still, a lot has been done in 1 year. Comment from a different viewer. We need a federal forensic audit for the comptroller and New York State in general. I think they'd find that New York State fraud is on par with Minnesota, Maine, and California. Thank you very much. There's an interesting piece about, I don't know if we'll get a chance to get to it, but about Minnesota. Comment from a different viewer. This is the problem with Republicans. They have no heart to save America. They like to talk, but they can't back up their actions. It's been going on every time they've been in power the last 20 years. They fold like a house of cards. It is really interesting. I'm not going to put that on Stefanik necessarily, if that's what you're referencing with her, because she was a fighter. I think she had enough of Washington and enough of, because she was going to just run for governor, not Congress. So I think she just didn't see the writing on the wall with the primary. And if Trump wasn't going to endorse somebody, why not just let Blakeman have it? But I understand your frustration. Don't get me wrong. But I wouldn't put at least Stefanik in that category. I would put the more kind of rhino Republicans that we talked about in the past. That when Trump first got in there, Paul Ryan comes to mind. Remember how he behaved, for lack of a better word? He really gummed up the works for Trump too, misleading him on certain things. Trump really was brand new to the job. And misled him on quite a few initial bills. Oh, we can't do this in Washington, we can't do that. And it really hurts. So yes, I do think Republicans have a history of that, of trying to, back in the day, my theory was, and many people have said this, that they kind of liked being in the minority because they could say all these things that they would accomplish to the constituents, but then not actually have to do the hard work. And a prime example of that was Obamacare, where they said, we're going to repeal Obamacare once we get in there. Then we did. And they had no plan. They had nothing in the works, and nothing happened. So I think there's something about that in the Republican mindset. Comment from Mark. He writes, Merry Christmas to Ken, Bob, Steve, Rick, Karen, and to you and to all the viewers on Frankly Speaking. Well, isn't that nice? Thank you, Mark. Merry Christmas to you, of course, and thank you to everybody who writes in and comments and waves. You know how much that means to me. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Man, we got a lot of good mornings in here. It's funny how they didn't say Cuomo or Biden's career imploded. Merry Christmas. Yeah, you're right. That was omitted from that piece, wasn't it? Very good point. Thank you for that. One other New York State update. Let me see. Oh, my gosh. No, we'll bring up New York State update when we come back. I realize that I'm a break behind. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dents to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
Hello? Hi. Where are you guys? Thanksgiving dinner's almost on the table. What? No, that can't be right. I just saw them last night. A drunk driver? But no, I just saw them. They're gone? They're gone.
It's the Raptor sales event at Chilson Wilcox with huge deals on new vehicles all over the lot, starting with $11,300 savings on Ram, or ask about 0% for 72 months on new Ram Bighorns. Save $11,800 on Wrangler and save $8,400 on Grand Cherokee Limited. Save $10,200 on Gladiator and $7,400 on Voyager. And just announced, no payments for 90 days at the Wrap Up the Year sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Ask about the 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on new Rams. Hurry to save huge.
Maybe it was a family vacation or a school field trip. But there you were, standing in awe at a national park. We are the National Park Foundation, and together with you, we're creating a future where every person, every generation, gets their chance at an unforgettable moment. Today, tomorrow, forever. Donate at National Park.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. As you can see, please leave yourself a few extra minutes going into work. It's a little bit messy out there, so I want you to be safe. Okay, we're back, broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. The view kind of cleared up what they were saying. Republican leadership I'm talking about that should have had Stefanik's back. Or had her back, not necessarily on Stefanik, but the people that back her. So she did have quite a bit of support, but Nassau County didn't support her because Nassau County is like its own kind of entity, and they wanted one of their own, hence Bruce Blakeman. But yeah, I'm not crazy. I think none of us are really crazy about how that all went down with Stefanik, and you feel bad for her because I feel bad for the state. I mean, I'm not saying she was a shoo-in, it was a lock, but it's probably the best chance Republicans had to win the governor's race since Pataki, and she's a better candidate than Pataki, but it's still an uphill battle, but at least and that's why so many people were talking about her. It gave us a little bit of hope, or gave us something to look forward to work for, as compared to the past working for campaigns that you knew kind of in your gut had no chance. I'm not gonna name any names in that scenario, but yes, just so I understand your point. One last New York State update. Zohran Mamdani will be sworn in as New York City's 112th mayor by his socialist idol, Bernie Sanders, during a New Year's Day public ceremony in Lower Manhattan. The planned Inauguration Day block party near City Hall will be the second time that Bernie Sanders, a Brooklyn native and Vermont senator, ushers a fellow progressive into the second toughest job in America. Titled Inauguration of a New Era, not error, era, the feat promises to usher in Mamdani's dreamy socialist vision for the Big Apple, including promises to deliver free buses, no-cost childcare, a rent freeze, and city-owned grocery stores, in part by hiking taxes on the rich. Mamdani's mantra of affordability helped sweep him to electoral victory, and so far political heights largely untouched, even by his fellow socialist travelers, Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's not clear how much the blowout bash will cost, but the mayoral transition will be covering the bill. Groundhog killer Bill de Blasio, remember that, in 2018 was also sworn into office by Sanders for an ultimately disappointing second term for progressives and conservatives alike. Sanders told the New York Times yesterday that he'll deliver remarks at next week's celebration, likely focusing on the retreat of democracy. The enormously difficult task that is on Zohran's shoulder is to show that government can deliver for working families and not just for the wealthiest people. The socialist shindig with Sanders will unfold hours after Mamdani technically becomes mayor, with help from another liberal darling. State Attorney General Letitia James will officially swear Mamdani in as mayor in a private event with his family at the stroke of midnight on January 1st. De Blasio similarly held a short ceremony around midnight administered by then State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman before the public oath-taking event. Mamdani said, "It's an honor to be sworn in by two leaders I've admired for years, Attorney General Tish James and Senator Bernie Sanders. The lefty love fest, ushering in Mamdani's historic incoming administration, isn't the only way the Democrat Socialist appears to be taking cues from de Blasio's tenure. Mamdani has tapped a plethora of former de Blasio administration aides." Wow, that seems like a good idea. The celebration is designed to ensure that all New Yorkers are able to take part in ushering in a new era for New York City, said the press release. Mamdani's team said it will accommodate the massive crowd of New Yorkers by setting up designated viewing areas for tens of thousands to gather. The transition has expected between 40,000 and 50,000 attendees and will shut down Broadway south of Canal Street for the public party. Who's going? I'm asking the question this morning. Who are you out there are going? We wanted to ensure that we are celebrating the beginning of our administration. It was a celebration that is not simply for the typical people who would be invited to inauguration, but in fact for everyone. All right. On that note. All right, we got some comments when we come back. And then we're going to talk a little bit about J.D. Vance and this Ted Cruz idea. You know, this is what I referenced to one of our viewers. 98 Minnesota mayors have warned the state fiscal policies are hurting the city's residents and local budgets. A group of 98 Minnesota mayors raised concerns with state leaders in a letter about the state's fiscal policies, saying they were impacting their cities and residents, noting a disappearing $18 billion surplus and a projected $2.9 billion to $3 billion deficit in 2028. In a letter to state lawmakers, and Governor Tim Walz and 98 mayors expressed concern and frustration and said the state was slipping in national economic rankings. Fraud, unchecked spending, and inconsistent fiscal management in St. Paul have trickled down to our cities, reducing our capacity to plan responsibly, maintain infrastructure, hire and retain employees, and sustain core services without overburdening local taxpayers. All right, on that note, we got a few more things to talk about. We only got 2 breaks, and then this edition's done. As I mentioned, on tomorrow's broadcast and Christmas broadcast, we have great music. It's going to be a Christmas edition, frankly speaking. So it's going to have our friends from Crystal Chords, Doc Possum, of course, playing all the music. Not every single song ever, but most of the music that we've had through the years for the telethon. So we're going to have a lot of great music. We're going to hear from the captains of the Salvation Army real quick to let you get better acquainted with them in case you missed that during the telethon. But most of it is music, and great music at that. So if you're getting up and around and maybe start cooking on Christmas, or tomorrow you're wrapping, whatever the case may be, tune into Frankly Speaking, because we'll still, quote unquote, be here. Kind of. We'll be here in spirit, but with great music playing. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Wow, time is going quick. All right, we'll be right back.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
Time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tubs and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
This is a Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam. Look how pretty that is out there this morning. But as you can tell, it's a little bit nasty, so please be careful on your way into work. Or to some of you doing your last second Christmas shopping, please be careful out there, would you please? Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, Merry Christmas to all of Frank's viewers. Yes, that was meant to include you too, Rick. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Look at all the Merry Christmases you're getting this morning, Rick. Comment from a different viewer. Merry Christmas, Frank. Well, thank you very much.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
We are the keepers of the wild. America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
So the one button where I count the waves is always in the same exact place, except for one of these screens that happens to be a commercial break. So my apologies, I did not mean to go to commercial break. I meant to count that wave, and I appreciate it. Ken writes, sorry, Frank, that Merry Christmas was including you too. I knew it. I knew it was, Ken. Thank you for that. Merry Christmas to you as well, Ken. Merry Christmas to everyone. I do appreciate all the comments throughout the years. It really makes our days special here. Okay. Comment from a different viewer. It's hard for a downstate Republican to get support in upstate New York. I think this is going to be a disaster. Hochul is licking her chops right now. She even got bold enough to make a statement to that effect. I would tend to agree with you. Okay, so yes, maybe a big turnout in Nassau County, but a Republican needs almost unanimous support from Republicans in upstate, where you have Blakeman already announcing that he is pro-choice, which will be a tough vote for a lot of conservatives. So I don't think he'll have the support. Could it be like a Larry Sharp scenario where someone kind of sweeps in on third party and steals even more votes? Could be. I don't think. Listen, maybe I'm wrong, and I'll eat crow, and I hope that I do. I don't see it being a great November for Republicans in the gubernatorial race. Okay. Vice President J.D. Vance towers over potential opponents in a hypothetical 2028 Republican presidential primary straw poll, taking it Turning Point USA, America First. Of the correspondents, 84% chose Vance as their pick for the Republican presidential nominee. Marco Rubio landed in second place at a very distant 5%. Ron DeSantis sits in third place with 3% support, followed by Donald Trump Jr. at 2%. Neither Governor Glenn Youngkin nor Senator Ted Cruz secured a whole percentage point. Now, this comes off the heels, and we're going to talk about what J.D. Vance had to tell David Marcus about all this. But according to this piece that came out yesterday, I believe it was, Ted Cruz weighs another presidential run, setting up a clash with Vance. He has feuded with Tucker Carlson and privately criticized the vice president, promoting traditional GOP foreign policies while warning against the threat of anti-Semitism in his party. Cruz, well, I don't want to go through all this. I mean, boy, I don't see a great scenario there. Cruz is weighing a second presidential bid, according to a person close to the senator, and another briefed on his thinking who spoke like others on the condition of anonymity to disclose internal conversations. A White House run would politically be risky for Cruz, putting him on course to collide with J.D. Vance. Friction is already evident behind the scenes. Cruz has criticized Vance, a close ally of Carlson. Is that? I don't know if that's true. But to Republican donors, according to two people familiar with the comments. The senator has warned that Vance's foreign policy views are dangerously isolationist. Vance has been one of the GOP's most prominent skeptics of U.S. intervention abroad. The emerging rivalry shows how much the party has changed under Trump's leadership since Cruz arrived in the Senate in 2013. After rising to prominence as a rebel against the establishment, Cruz is now a vocal champion of some longtime orthodox GOP positions. This goes so far, it doesn't mention. Remember, he ran against Trump. It's why it became so important for us, even in New York, for Republicans in New York to go vote at that time, because New York played a role in the primary. So his biggest obstacle, Vance, I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene said of the 2028 primary race, they'll beat Ted Cruz, I'm sure, running against J.D. Vance. All of us hate Ted Cruz. That was her words. Anyway, enough on that. Ted Cruz weighing that. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance might not agree. Many observers saw his barn burner of a capstone speech at Turning Point USA America Fest this weekend in Phoenix as the first major moment of his presidential election. But was Vance crowned as a nominee? It's complicated. I don't want to go through each individual that they talked to here, but it did seem to make a clear message. He said, honestly, it feels disloyal to even talk about 2028. We're not even a year in, but yes, I'm very much on the team. It's one of the reasons I think the 2028 talk is so premature. Consider this hypothetical. If an opportunity is presented that would make Marco Rubio look great, be great for the administration, and wouldn't really involve me, at least publicly, what do I do? If I'm optimizing for 2028, I try to kill the opportunity. If I'm optimizing for the country, for this administration, and to be a good human being, we do it. All right. Anyway, we got to take a short break because we are almost out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll read your comments when we return.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
How about investing in our children and their future? How about investing in Start Early and giving the next generation and generations to come the same chance we want for our own children? Invest in Start Early and become a champion for our youngest learners. Then together, we actually can change the future.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We are nearly out of time. Let's get to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank, and thank you for your honest reporting. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Well, thank you very much. The same goes for you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. I do appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Merry Christmas to all. Thank you for what you are doing all year. Thank you for all the kind words this morning. And finally, and I understand this mindset, I'm really upset that Stefanik isn't going to run. I thought New York had a chance with her, and I'm so sick of the hate and the fear that's being spread, especially now at Christmas time. But Merry Christmas. Well, thank you. I understand the anger. I think I stand with your opinion that I think that Stefanik was our best chance. That's what makes it so frustrating. I feel like we're kind of back to square one, unfortunately, which is just ride along until November and try to do your best. Maybe I'm wrong. Time will tell, but it sure seems it. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. I want to thank everybody who joined us this morning, all the great comments, all the nice Christmas wishes. Merry Christmas to all of you, of course. I hope that you'll join us. Not going to be live in studio, but I'll be there in spirit because I'll be watching probably while I wrap gifts. All that great music from the Crystal Chords, from Doc Possum, that will air at our normal time tomorrow, and Christmas as well. So I hope that you can join us. And you can still feel free to comment and text. I probably won't see them until I get back, but I'll read them when we return. So have a fun, safe Christmas. And folks, remember what the season is all about. We'll see you soon. Merry Christmas.
What can I do to help you?
Come on, buddy, headphones.
What?
Hey!
Okay, all right. What kind of movie? Said I don't want to talk about it.
Wait. Trey, what are you doing?